More and more I'm seeing reports of software on people's phones invading their privacy, taking things like their location and selling it to companies. Or recently we've been seeing where we know now for a fact that ads are listening to you with the microphone on your device and serving you up ads. This happens because people install proprietary software, and even worse, proprietary software with ads. Just avoid proprietary software and most of these problems go away. Also, even if you're using an open source application, don't share your private information with some company and their server. Everybody should have a web server set up at their house. It's super easy to do. Literally any computer can be turned into a web server, and even if you don't have a computer, well, you need a computer to set one up, but you could set up a web server with under $10 worth of hardware. It's a little bit more difficult than just turning on a web server on your computer, which if you're running Linux already, I guarantee you already have a web server installed on your device. You just need to enable it. Or install a full-blown web server like Apache if you're really going to be running some web services. Today, though, we're going to be looking at an application, a free and open source application, meaning not only does it not cost you anything, but the software is available. You can look at the source, software is available, the source code's available, so you can look at it and you know you can trust it. And this application you can install on your device and then set it up to send your location information to your own server. I've seen lots of applications that will log and track your movement to your device, which of course you could always use to sync with other devices. But what I was looking at for something real time, if I have an internet connection, it can just send a request to my web server and my web server can log that information. We're going to go over installing the application, setting up the application. It's super simple to do. And then you just need, again, a web server to log that information, which is super simple to do. We, again, just need to install or enable a web server. And then to log the information coming, we're not going to go into that in detail because there's lots of different ways you can do it, but literally one line of code, you can log information coming into your web server to a text file. And then we're going to look at some simple code that will take the information from this application, which gives you lots of location information and information about your device. And we're just going to grab the latitude and longitude, and we're going to create a URL that you can click on, and it will bring you to an OpenStreetMaps website with a marker. So let's go ahead and get looking at this. Don't get too concerned. Some of this code might look a little complicated if you've never done anything like this before, but literally it's one line of code. And if you're using this application, you can literally take my code, my one line, and run it on your machine, and it will work the same. So let's go ahead and jump right in. And here we are on an Android device. The application we're going to be using is called OwnTracks. It is available in F-Droid. They also have precompiled APKs on their GitHub. It may also be available in the Google Play Store. I didn't check because I don't use the Google Play Store. But once it's installed, you can go ahead and click on its icon, and it will walk you through the steps of setting it up. Mainly, we have to enable some permissions. We have our welcome screen, and then it tells you a little bit about what this program does. And it sends your information over HTTPS, which is to a web server, or through MQTT, which is something I need to learn a little bit more about. I think MQTT, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, allows communication between two devices, so maybe you don't need a server. So that's something you might want to look into, but I like the idea of having a server that's logging the stuff, and again, setting up your own server is super simple. You can also click on Open Booklet here, which will give you a little more information, but we're just going to go ahead and click Next. Next, we have to enable some permissions. We're going to request permissions for our location while the app is in use, and then we're also going to request that to allow it to run in the background. Then we'll click Back, and we'll click Next. Next, it needs permissions for notifications. We will allow that. Next, and then we can go ahead and click Open Preferences. Here, we can set up where we want the information to be sent. So we're going to go to Connection. Here, again, it defaults to MQTT. I'm going to go ahead and change this to HTTP because I'm sending this to a web server. At this point, you send it to wherever your logging script is. Again, we're not going to go over how to write a logging script today because you can do it in PHP, you can do it in Bash, you can do it in Python, you can do it in like a Node.js or even C. But it really is, if you just want to take the information being sent from this program and dump it into a text file, it's 1 to 2 lines of code. But let's say your website is filmsbychris.com, which is my website. I recommend visiting it. You can also then give it where the logger is. So we'll just say gps logger.php. Again, This is not a real address right now, but if that's where your code is for storing the information, that's where the URL you would put. Next, the device ID. We're going to go here, and I'm going to change this to say Bob's phone. So no dashes, no special characters, no spaces, but this will be the device ID. This is useful if you're logging all the information coming into one log file, but you have multiple devices. This will help you determine which device each log is for. Next, down here, you could set up a username and password, which you probably should do. And then if you need to set up certificates, which my website already uses CertBot, I don't have to set up my own certificates here. And that's pretty much it. So now we can go back. And if we were to go back again, and I was to click on this application, and I'm going to quickly move this off screen and then bring it back. Okay. Here we are. So this is the map. It should zoom in on where you are. If for some reason it's not showing where you are, step outside for a minute. I find sometimes when you're in a building, to get your first GPS location on a device like this, you might need to step outside. But we're going to click this play button, and you have options. Significant changes. This will use less battery power, but give you less updates. High frequency. This is what we're going to click on today. This gives you, constant movement logs. You can do manual or quiet. So we're just going to click this, and at this point, it's logging. It should be taking your GPS location and sending it to a server, the server that we set up. And you'll see every once in a while a little green icon pop up here saying, that's it's getting your location when that happens. Now, there it is. So right there, that means, it's just logging our location. Now, we're on the server, we'll say. This is just an example file here. If I list out here, I have a log. So again, we're having that application send information to a server, and I'm just having the server dump the information into a log file like this. And this is just an example log file. And if we cat this out, cat's just showing the contents of the file. It's just a text file. There's 2 lines here. This might look a little scary to you if you're not familiar with JSON. JSON's just a standard way of saving information. And we have 2 lines here. So we have 2 logs. And again, you can open this up in a text editor if you want, like Notepad. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say cat log, which again will display to the screen here. And I'm going to pass it to a program called JQ. JQ may not be installed on your system by default, but on a Linux system, it's in your repositories. Just go ahead and install it, but I'm saying JQ dot. And that's just going to take the JSON that's all on one line there, color code it, and format it a little bit prettier so it looks like this. So we can see what one of the logs looks like. So we know everything that application is sending to the server. This is what type is this? It's a location. We have some Wi-Fi information here, which is useful because let's say they are indoors and they're in a building that maybe doesn't get a GPS location. If you're familiar with the Wi-Fi router and the name of it, you know where they are because you know what Wi-Fi router they're connected to. You have things like battery life, acceleration, and a bunch of other things. But the main things that we're concerned with, creation date is important because if you haven't gotten a log in a while, you kind of want to realize that. So this is when the GPS location was taken. We also have the topic here has the device name. So again, if you have multiple devices logging to one log file, you can tell which log is which by just using grep, which is a way to search through these files and grab that information. But mainly we're going to look at the latitude and longitude, right? That's all we really need. And what I want to do is, it'd be great, you could create an application using OpenStreetMap's API to where you can view and make the icon move, and you can change how the icon looks. But right now, today, we're just going to take that log file and we're going to generate a URL, a link to a website from that information. What website? Well, we're going to be looking at OpenStreetMaps. And I've talked about in a previous video, if you use openstreetmaps.org, you can then give it a latitude and longitude for a marker. That's the blue marker right there. We're a zoom level here. That's how far in your zoom. The higher the number, the more zoomed in you are. And then again, the latitude and longitude for the area you're looking at. So we want to take this information, grab this, and put that information into these locations in the text, and just spit out a list of URLs we can click on. And I have all this written down here. So here's an example log. There's just one line, but you'll have a log with a bunch of those. And this is the command right here. And again, This might look a little scary if you've never seen anything like this before. Again, you can just copy and paste it, but all it's doing is creating a URL like this. In this case, two, because we have two logs. But we're saying print this part of the URL and then print the latitude. Print this part of the URL and then print the longitude. Print this part of the URL, which is the zoom level, and then print the latitude / longitude. And we had two entries, and now we have two URLs, and we can click on one of these, and it just opens it up. So you can literally just take that log file and create a list of URLs that someone can click on. They'll click on the most recent one to get your most recent location, or they can go back and click at previous ones. And that's pretty much it. Again, I'll link to this in the description of the video, which has links to the application we're talking about, its page on GitHub, to its releases, and where it is on F-Droid as well. So you can just download that APK, install it. I give you an example line of output. And then again, once you log all that to a file, you can just run this as a script on your server to get a list of URLs. And I get, again, someone who's new to this might seem very scary, but again, it's literally, once you have the app set up, there's one line of code to log it to a log file on your server, and then this line of code to get those URLs. And of course, you'll tweak it a little bit. If your log file is really big, you're not going to want to cat out the entire file. You would use something called tail, which just shows the last 10 lines of the file. And then you might grep for the username. But again, I'm trying to keep things simple here. This is it. I thank you for watching this. Visit filmsbychris.com. That's Chris with the K. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, I hope that you have a great day.